SK win.
Thank you very much, D-Man. I don't know who called it. I think it was you that said that SK was going to take the next. No, you said Alliance was going to take the next.
I said 2 times Alliance, 2 times SK.
Yeah. So, guys, pick some bans. Impaler, what did you make of pick some bans? And most importantly, what adaptations did you see that were successful from both teams?
I think they're very similar team comps, but I actually quite like how SK let the Maokai through, so they could pick 2 other winning lanes. And then they pick this Aatrox that can constantly bully the Maokai, so effectively they've got 3 lanes constantly pushing in, and that allows Svenskeren to kind of get in the jungle, get these red buff invades that he succeeded on.
I will admit, when I saw Alliance comp, I was like, this is an insane siege poke comp you have right here, with even the pick potential, because you have Elise Morgana, which is one of the best combinations in the game. So I was like, okay, if SK Gaming doesn't actually win the early game, it's like taking control of the map here, they might end up just having to sit back at their own tower and wait for Alliance to move down 4 members and just start sieging on it. And if they land 1 skill shot, they will force the ulti from invaded, and they can just keep staying there and keep poking down your towers and the players. But SK Gaming, again, won the early game. I'm not sure what Alliance is actually doing in the early game here. Shook doesn't have much presence in the lane. Svenskeren was counter-jungling him, counter-ganking him as well. And SK Gaming just dominate the early game. 2nd time in a row now. Alliance really needs to step up the early game.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, Svenskeren, to both of you, I do want to highlight him a little bit, because we did have the feeling that at the end of the season he couldn't really put his stamp on the matches that much. Here he is, even though he's being that invisible threat in the beginning and he's clearing out that red buff continually. But you had something to say that he didn't buy enough wards, actually, essentially, and that's something we've seen a couple of times.
Yeah, I think SK is kind of renowned to prioritize like Dorans over ward slots, and I think it's really punishing them, because they're coming out ahead of this early game, and then they're like, we can do stuff, but they can't snowball the game hard enough due to lack of vision alone. So I think I'd like to see Sven pick up an extra 2 wards every time he gets that red buff invade, drop them in the jungle, and that can really start shutting down Shook, because they're going to know what side the map he's on then.
And not just Sven, everyone needs to buy some wards. I mean, Jesus was sitting on a health potion 30 minutes into the game. Candy Pan is sitting on a Doran's Blade, also like 35 minutes into the game. Doran's Shield from Freddy as well. Like, sell your damn Doran's items when we go into the late game, buy some wards. You already are in the lead. You have a fed Ahri who can one-shot people if you get the ward control, if you get the vision control on the map. Use it. Take the lead you have from the early game. Don't even give Alliance any chance to come back in the game, because if we actually just pull up the first replay we have, this is where Alliance is slowly coming back in the game after being so far behind early on. If we can just start rolling the clip, the first thing we're actually going to see is why Alliance comp is so good at picking off targets. They land 1 binding, and look at all the bursts on the Svenskeren. They instantly force the ulti from invaded. Now is the time where Alliance shouldn't fully commit until the ulti is gone. Not sure why Shook is actually flash cocooning a target who already has the kill ult. That was a big mistake, a bit of a sloppy play by him, and he's actually not been performing too well. Anyway, the fight continues here. Shook is already dead. Now SK can chase. They overcommit, however. Another binding landing. Again, Morgana, you are a beautiful support. Froggen comes in, lands the ult here. Candy Panda dies from it. And then, I'm not really sure what Svenskeren was doing in the end, but probably trying to flank around. He ends up dying as well here. And this is where Alliance is coming back in the game, even with a big misplay from Shook, where he flashes onto a cocoon a target with a Kale ult to cocoon it, and the rest of SK is already nearby. He ends up dying, and then SK overcommits, slightly losing the lead at this point.
It's quite interesting to see, actually, because SK was always that late game team that would push you to those end game fights and have the superior vision control. Do you think it is that they trained very hard on the early game, maybe in this one, that they kind of lost? They couldn't pick up the 2 things at the same time here?
I think it's amazing to see how SK have been turned around from this team that used to lose a lot of early games and then out-rotate the opponents, to now they're winning nearly every game. And it's really good to see. If they can keep this up, I really think they can have a chance of beating Alliance 3-2 now.
Let's actually take a look at another team fight that they played very well. Let's get that up on the screen around Dragon this time around.
Yeah, so quick setup here. SK Gaming are still ahead in gold, even after the fight they had before here. And this is the first real team fight, which goes in favor of SK Gaming and kind of sets the trend for the rest of the game. So let's just roll the clip here. Paler, take over.
I think SK finally realized that they need to commit and really utilize the KO ult. So Freddy goes in, gets the KO ult in a sec, and then Jesus is ready to zone on the side. So he's got 3 people off, gets a 2-man queue, and then they can just clean up this fight. Svenskeren gets the jump reset, starts poking the back line, and this allows them just to kill off the tank line of Alliance. And now they've started doing this, it's really like, they've got to utilize the KO. It's the most important thing. If they can do that, they can clean up the fights.
It was basically the only protection they had for their carries. The KO ult here, everyone else was kind of like jump in your face of Alliance. But what we also saw in this team fight and in the later team fights is whenever SK actually engaged onto Alliance, suddenly every single skill shot was just missed. Like there's no cocoons, there's no bindings to set up the picks for Alliance as soon as the team fight started. So we often saw Wicked go in, die, while 4 members from Alliance just kept running and trying to land the skill shot, and SK was just dodging around it. And therefore they never hit it, they never managed to get a kill, and just kept losing team fights from here on.
Well, with the individual mistakes you mentioned, we saw it in the last best of 5 as well. You cannot underestimate what it's like to play on this stage here and knowing that you have to win this game. Coming into the next game in the series, it's all evened up, 1-1. The advice for, let us start with SK Gaming, because I feel like if they can connect that good early game and then buy some wards, this should be easy game for them if they manage to do it. No, it isn't that easy, of course.
Well, you basically just said it. Do what you're doing in the early game, buy some wards, use it to snowball your lead, especially if you have something like an Ari in the mid lane to really start picking off people if they don't have any wards, because it's so easy just to position yourself in a bush and wait for someone to walk by, because they have to rotate to the top lane, rotate to the bottom lane, get the kill, then you take a Baron or a Dragon, or potentially at the base.
I think when both junglers are starting Moby boots as well, you need to have vision, because you can shut down a Moby rush jungler. If you constantly know where they are, they've invested a lot in getting this item so they can get more ganks off. And if they don't get these ganks off, it's really gold inefficient. And so yeah, just more wards early, more wards into the mid game, and I think that's who's going to win this series based on warding alone.
All right, we'll definitely keep a close eye on that. Our gold is piling up, so we're going to shop. When we come back, it's game 3. Don't touch your browser.